So we need to, when we look at this, I see I get a binomial squared, so that means I have to write it twice and then FOIL it. So that's going to give me 4x squared, and then when I do the outside I get negative 6x. When I do the inside I get negative 6x, and I put those together, that gives me negative 12x. And then of course I could do negative 3 times negative 3 and get positive 9. But then we got to worry about, if we look back at the original equation, we get that negative that's out in front of that parentheses. So that's like having, remember, that's like having a negative 1, which means we got to go through and distribute that, which changes the signs on all those things inside it. So 4x minus 5 minus 4x squared plus 12x minus 9. And then we're going to combine like terms. Negative 4x squared, there's only one x squared term, but then we're going to put the 4x and the 12x together, get 16x, and then negative 5 minus 9 is negative 14. When we're doing percent of change, you've got to remember that we take the new value, subtract what it used to be, then divide it by what it used to be. When you're doing a percent of change, it's always trying to relate to what the old value was. You can see the amount of increase, percent of increase, percent of decrease. So this is the old number, this is the new number. This is, I think I wrote this problem back in 2008. So 4.09 is the new number minus the old cost of gas divided by the old cost of gas times that by 100. And I think you get 30 cents divided by 3.79 times 100. Which gave me about 7.9%. Now we're going to do a little fraction work, and we're going to go follow order of operations, so we've got to go inside the parentheses. So the numerator is 1 plus 3/14. Well, you remember you got to have common denominators to add fractions. So that's 14 over 14 plus 3 over 14, which is 17 over 14. Then we have to do the denominator. So 2 minus 1/7, well, that's the same thing as 14 over 7 minus 1 over 7, which is 13 over 7. And we've got this 3/7 out in front that we're adding, and we're multiplying that by 13 over 7. 13 over 17. So I'm going to rewrite this division as a fraction as this divided by that. So 17 over 14 divided by 13 over 7 times 13 over 17. And when back in elementary school you learned that to divide fractions you take the reciprocal of the second fraction and multiply. And then 7 goes into 14 twice. That 17 cancels that 17. That 13 cancels that 13. So I've got a whole bunch of 1s on top. So 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. And 2 times 1 times 1 is 2. So that leaves me with 3/7 plus 1/2. Got to get common denominators, which is 14. So this is 6 over 14 because I multiplied by 2 over 2. And that's 7 over 14 because I multiplied by 7 over 7. And you add those, that gives you 13 over 14. Looking for where these two linear equations cross. So they said use the substitution method, and it's kind of nice because y equals negative 2x. So x minus negative 2x, replaced the y with that, equals negative 6. Well, a negative turns positive, so that's going to give me x plus 2x equals negative 6. So that's 3x equals negative 6. X divided by 3, x equals negative 2. And then since y equals negative 2 times that negative 2 we just got, y equals 4. So these two lines intersect at 2, 4. And we should check in the other equation we should check that negative 2 minus 4, is that equal to negative 6? This equation up here is what I'm talking about. I replaced x and y with what I think x and y are, and that did check, so that is the right answer. To solve this quadratic equation by factoring, we need to set it equal to 0. So I'm going to subtract 6. And then I'm going to try to factor, and some of you still like the AC method, so I'll show you this way. I'm going to multiply 12 times negative 6. So plus z minus 72 equals 0, and 8 and 9 give me 72, and they subtract to give me 1. And when I FOIL these out, I do get positive 9. Then I'm going to divide by the 12. And then I want to simplify these. I want to reduce that fraction. So that's 3/4. And I'm looking for when is this equal to 0? Whoops, what am I doing here? No, it won't. That's erase for me. So when does 3/4 equal 0? And when does z minus 2/3 equal 0? Because 8 over 12 is 2/3. So I'm just going to subtract. Z equals negative 3/4, and z equals positive 2/3. If this weren't an equation, if this didn't have the equal sign, I would want to do this still, and then I would want to write this as 4z plus 3. Notice I'm using the reduced form here, times, what is it, 3z minus 2. So that's all I have to do. A lot of you did that. You forgot about using this as an equation, which is okay. If you got this correct, that's good. So the part, or the is 720. The whole, or the of, is 852. Equals percent over 100, or times 100. And I think that is about 85%. Let me just look at my other answer key here. Yeah, so it's about 84.5 I got. 85%. For this first one, I have 3x minus 2 to the second power, which means 3x minus 2 times 3x minus 2. 3 times 3 is 9. X to the negative 2 times x to the negative 2. We add exponents. X to the negative 4. And I really detest negative exponents, so I wrote it this way. But I didn't say to do that, simplify it any further. So either one of these is the correct answer. And this one, there's a lot of ways to do it. I think what first off I'm going to do is I'm just going to subtract the exponents. So x to the negative 2 minus 1, because the x's, that's x to the negative 3. And y to the negative 11 minus negative 2 turns to positive. You're going to subtract them. Y to the negative 9. So I wrote this as 1 over x to the third, y to the 9th. There's other ways to do this problem. That's no easier, no harder. So we're finding a linear equation, right? So to find the slope, and that's the first step, we got to remember you do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Many of you did this upside down. You found that run over the rise. So 20 minus negative 20 over 5 minus minus 3. That gave me 40 over 8, which is 5. So I know y equals 5x plus b. Then Mrs. Bruckner had you folks doing, I'm going to go this one, 20 equals 5 times 5 plus b, that's 25. I'm going to subtract 25. That gives me b equals negative 5. So y equals 5x minus 5. This, so it's a compound fraction. One way to do this is to rewrite it. So a over b divided by a squared minus b squared all over ab. So when I'm dividing fractions, I take the reciprocal of the second one and change it to multiplication. And then I want to try to cancel out some stuff. So I notice that a squared minus b squared is the difference of two squares, so that factors to a plus b, a minus b, that a minus b and that a minus b cancel, that b and that b cancels, that leaves me a over a plus b. Now some of you tried to cancel things like this. You can only cancel factors, folks, and one way to convince yourself, if you have something like 3 over 3 plus 2, the correct answer to that is 3/5. But if you try doing that cancellation trick that some of you tried, that would give you 1/3. Not the right answer. Okay? Order of operations, guys. Question. There's a -1 in front of that parenthesis. There's a -1 in front of that parenthesis. That's what you distribute. So 7 minus 3x minus 6 equals 11 minus x minus 2. Combine like terms first. So 7 minus 6 is 1. 11 minus 2 is 9. And now you want to get the x's on the same side, the constants on the other. So I'm going to choose to subtract 9 and add 3x. So that gives me -8 equals 2x divided by 2 divided by 2. X equals -4.